that, they call him Al-Shara, but
ending his nearly 20.
Hold on a second. But I myself am not going to call him Al-Shara. I will call him by his name, Al-Julani. What you will find is that there are people who was actually like supporting this guy, this Al-Qaeda puppet, which is so odd to me. Like, I thought we didn't like Al-Qaeda. Like, I don't understand journalists. So this is why it's still, at the end of the day, there is propaganda to it. I don't understand if you call yourself a journalist and then you have anything. Let me just start with the clip.
In December 2024, the Syrian people made history when they overthrew Bashar al-Assad, ending his nearly 25-year brutal dictatorship and his family's 54-year reign over the nation.
So you see, this is what I don't understand. So it's like you are smart enough to know, like, I didn't live in Syria. I don't know about all the other stuff, but what I do know is that this was a Zionist operation to remove Bashar al-Assad. And why you act like they did something heroic and brave, stunning and brave? It wasn't the people. I mean, finally, Israel got its way. America assisted, Turkey, whatever. They got Bashar al-Assad out and they put in their puppet. So I really just don't understand how people call themselves journalists and then they speak with this, but it's propaganda still because everybody needs sponsors and then they have to pay their bills. I'm sorry. I had to cut him off and say that. Oh, come on.
Assad fled to Russia as Syrians were left to pick up the pieces and decide whether to put their trust into new leader Ahmad al-Shara, aka Abu Muhammad al-Julani, former leader of al-Qaeda in Syria, who says he wants Syria to head in the direction of democracy, who says he wants to rebuild Syria's economy and promises to safeguard its minorities. But how did Syria get to this exact moment, and where does it go from here? Journalist and author Charlie Glass, who was formerly ABC News' chief Middle East correspondent, is the author of the new book, Syria, Civil War to Holy War, ? Glass gives his first-hand experience of Syria's civil war, which since 2011 has killed over 500,000 people, has forced more than 8 million people to flee, and breaks down how a unique combination of dictatorship, foreign influence, and religious fundamentalism led to the downfall of the Assad regime.
And again, I say, it's like, Mehdi's throwing me off here because, again, as a journalist, I do not call, if I say Syria's civil war, I say so-called civil war. That was a proxy war. That was our war. We did that, okay? If you would have saw my last live, I was showing footage from 2011 when CNN was going in and acting like they were, oh, we're with the rebels, they're getting close to the regime. We're gonna get, guys, all right, crouch down, and it literally looked like a movie being put on, and you had to see these people who were shooting at people, right? I don't know what, it was a production, and then these were supposed to be the good guys that we were assisting, okay? So again, Mehdi, I don't understand, I do have to keep cutting them off, but it's just like, how can you call it like civil war and not? How can you be on the left and talk like this?
He joins me now. Charlie Glass, thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations on the book. A fascinating book, fascinating timing with what's going on in the Middle East right now. Let's just go big picture to begin with. You draw comparisons in the book between the Syrian revolt of 1925, which you describe as a nationalist revolution against foreign occupation, and the 2011 revolt against Bashar al-Assad. What makes those two conflicts, nearly a century apart, so similar? What was at the core of them both?
Well, they were similar until the rebellion this time won. At that time, the rebellion was crushed by the French. The French had established a mandate, so-called mandate, basically turning Syria into a colony in 1920, and dividing Lebanon, Syria, separating Lebanon from Syria, and imposed French rule, which was very unpopular in Syria. In 1925, the Druze in the southern part of the country began a revolution against the French to drive them out, which was supported by various Sunni factions and Sunni tribes. And for a little while, it looked like the French were going to have to leave.
And listen, we're listening to this with a grain of salt. I don't know. There's a lot of propaganda. I don't even really want to go to the history. I wanted to get to the part really where he says Al-Shara, Al-Julani, wants to please the United States. But if it starts to feel a little too propagandized, I won't stay stuck on this clip because I don't trust all information from people who are still sponsored.
To leave.
And not to say that I would never be sponsored, but it would have to be like a real Christian, But anyway.
They were losing on all fronts in the first 6 months of the campaign, but gradually they sent more forces and they sent tanks and air power, which was the decisive factor, to crush the rebellion. Well, Assad was doing pretty much the same thing from 2011 until he lost in 2025, of crushing the rebellion against him using air power and tanks and artillery and so on, things that the opposition didn't have.
In the book, you discuss how several foreign powers like the US, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Turkey, all got involved in Syria's civil war. Ultimately, how much of the instability, the chaos, the fighting over the past decade in Syria can be attributed, in your view, to these outside forces? Specifically, how much of it to the United States?
I think the outside interference played, unfortunately, a very detrimental role, and by that I mean, I remember at the beginning of the opposition to Assad, when the demonstrations. Remember, this was at the time of the Arab Spring in 2011.
Yes.
Peaceful demonstrations had overthrown Mubarak in Cairo and Ben Ali in Tunisia, and the Syrians saw an opportunity for themselves to get rid of the Assad dictatorship, and they began in the same way that the Egyptians and the Tunisians had begun, which is through peaceful demonstrations, civil disobedience, and the discussion. I remember speaking particularly.
The propaganda on this guy is just too much. Okay, like I'm sorry, I can't. I can't even fully what I will do is this. I'm gonna pull up that baby's an incubator thing, but there's never an organic, peaceful demonstration that pops up in any country. Again, there's never a peaceful, organic demonstration. It starts off with the kids, but guess what? Our CIA is involved with that in some fashion. And in the Middle East, you better believe it is for Israel. Okay, and that's just the fact, right? But I'll even take you to Haiti. Let's go to Haiti, and you'll say, well, wait a minute, what do you mean? All of this destruction, there was a dictator in Haiti, okay, named Duvalier. They called him Baby Doc or Duvalier. The country was clean. The country had tourism. The country was not what you see today, and he had to go because they needed the chaos. They introduced democracy to Haiti, right? A country that had a dictatorship and who did not play none of that due process stuff. Now I understand that it works here, supposedly, but but over there, no, we don't have time for due process. We caught you doing something, you're going to jail now. Yes, this is how it has to be in order to keep a country under control. Yes, Duvalier had to make a lot of decisions, a lot of hard decisions. When you know that people are after you, you have to make hard decisions. And so when today I hear people talk about Duvalier and it was so hard. Those gulags he had were so horrible. People who are not Haitian, and I don't do this thing where you have to be Haitian to talk about Haiti, but I know that my mother said that she could walk at any time of the night if she wanted to, but as a woman she didn't, and she didn't have to fear gangs coming to take her and stuff like that. Now this country is all out of whack, and the source is sucked out of it. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. It is an absolute mess, and the person who owns Haiti is Zionist George Biggio. Okay.